What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video on primary defensive solutions. I'm Peter as always. Today I'm going to be going over my personal AR-15 setup. Before I get started showing you my AR, something I should point out. Everything that you're going to see with my AR is how I set it up for me. How I may set up my AR may or may not work for you. Just keep that in mind when I go over like some of the accessories or some of the parts that I have and my explanation as to why I run that. The whole point of these videos, is to not only talk about like why we set it up the way we do, but we also understand that these types of videos can inspire others to look into something that they may not have thought of before. A viewer may get exposed to like a new type of accessory or a new type of component or just an entire philosophy on an AR setup. Funny enough, some of the stuff on my AR I have on there because I have looked at AR-15 setup videos and I've seen how other people run theirs, and I've seen some things that make me go, I want to look more into that later today and do some research. And yeah, I hope I can, do the same for you guys, and, the rest of us here at Primary Defensive Solutions hope that we can inspire others with how we set up our ARs and what our philosophies are to setting up our ARs. And we're always happy to, answer questions. If you got a question, by all means, comment below, or we'll be checking, and we like to respond. We like to engage. So I think I've done yapping, and I'm ready to show you my AR now. So this is my personal AR-15. Let me go ahead and show clear. Alright, so this is a 11.5 SBR, and that is right, I did register this as an SBR, and I have my stamp for this. Lower receiver is going to be Palmetto State, upper receiver is Aero Precision, and as Garand Thumb likes to say, we are going to go from tip to butt on what is what and why I run it. So let's get started. So starting at the muzzle, I have a Yankee Hill Machine Resonator 30 cal suppressor. One thing to note is this is sitting on a 5.56 upper. I do have a 300 blackout upper, but 300 blackout is redonkulously expensive. So I'm not shooting a whole lot of 300 blackout right now. I mainly run this on my 5.56, and honestly, even though it's a 30 cal with 5.56, it still has a awesome sound reduction signature. It is 5.56. 5.56 is still pretty loud, suppressed, all things considered, but it still reduces it to pretty hearing safe levels outdoors. And also what I have on my AR is I also have a muzzle device from Yankee Hill, which allows me to do quick attach and quick detach, which I'll show you. So when I want to throw it on, just slide it on over the muzzle, rotate it in, and then the moment I start to feel the wall, I then just crank it. She's ready to rock and roll. That was one of the main factors of why I went with the YHM. Another reason, very affordable. If you're someone that's trying to get into the whole world of suppressors, I would recommend YHM suppressors. The suppressor alone, I recommend it. Something to keep in mind is I did read that apparently there's some weird stuff going on with their warranty, because apparently they used to have a no questions asked kind of warranty, and they're kind of changing that. I don't know too much of what's going on there, but I want to let you know, in case you are considering a YHM, to keep something like, you want to consider all things. And with a suppressor, with the amount of time and money that's spent legally acquiring one, you want to get a suppressor from a manufacturer that you know is going to have a really good warranty that will back you up. So YHM, in terms of their cans, awesome, very affordable. I would do some research on the warranty though. I have a Streamlight ProTac weapon light on here. It boasts a modest 625 lumens. So I actually have a pretty interesting thing going on here. So I have a Streamlight light, right? But I have a Arisaka tail cap adapter, which allows me to put Surefire tail caps. And the one I have here is the UE tail cap, which allows me to then plug in my Unity hot button. Over time, I will consider, upgrading to a Surefire or mod light. But for the time being, this setup right now gets the job done. As long as you're not getting O-Light or any crapo Amazon light, you're good. I always recommend Streamlight, Surefire, Arisaka, mod lights. I recommend all those brands. And I throw a Streamlight in there as the budget-friendly option. And sitting on my Streamlight, I have the T-Rex Arms light bar. If you own a suppressor and you have a weapon light, I wholeheartedly recommend the light bar. Before I got this, I used to be iffy about if suppressor shadow was like that big of a deal. But then when I threw on the light bar, I was shocked that there's like very little to no suppressor shadow. Wholeheartedly recommend the light bar for anyone that has a can and has a light, or is going to be looking at getting a can and light on their AR. Going to be actually talking about the Unity hot button. I really like this. Before I was running this, I was running the Streamlight pressure pad that came with the Streamlight, and I wasn't a fan. It was like really big, bulky, and I noticed that I was having a lot of accidental discharges of my light. And when I had to do like a course or a drill that required just a lot of movement and just having to do things very fast. And I really wanted to eliminate that, because the last thing you want to do is give away your position by ADing your light source. So with the hot button, I have it high up on the rail, which is great for my grip. I have like a clamp style of grip. This is not interfering with the hot button at all. It's out of the way so I can, still grip it like I normally do. And then when I do need to actuate the light, I just got to shift my thumb up a bit. Does not get in the way of my sight picture of my optic. And I can even hold my thumb there for a while, and it's not like it's uncomfortable or anything. This is like, to me, this is like the optimal hot button setup or position. Sitting in front of the hot button is just a Daniel Defense fixed iron sight. Why I went with the fixed? Because it's rigid, it's sturdy, but most importantly, it is cool. And we all know why we get ARs and why we deck it out. Not for the mission, not for practicality. To be cool. Unless you put hair arms furniture, then you're an affront to God. So you may have noticed these like elastic bands on my handguard. These are called Ranger bands, and funny enough, I got this because of a AR-15 setup video that I saw. It was an AR setup video I saw from Ronin Tactics, which, if you're not familiar with who Ronin Tactics is, he's constantly dropping knowledge, former SOF guy, great YouTube channel, tons of content you can absorb days, maybe weeks worth of content, because he just has so much knowledge to pass on about handling your firearm, threat assessment, stuff like that. I highly recommend. Give him a follow. And in his setup video, he has these Ranger bands, which is great for cable management. I don't have as much cable that I need to manage now. The Streamlight pressure pad had cables all over the place, which really came in handy. But this is really good for just tying down your cables. And it's not like a zip tie where it's like, if you put it on, but then you want to take off the zip tie, you gotta, cut it. You can just, remove the Ranger band. You can buy these on Amazon for like, you get like a pack of 25 or 50. It's one of those two for like dirt cheap. Highly recommend. As for the sling itself, I am running a Magpul MS4 dual QD. There's lots of great slings out there in the market, like the Blue Force Gear Vickers sling, Ronin Tactics has a sling, Warrior Post Society, T-Rex Arms, Haley Strategic, Pharaoh Concepts. Lots and lots of people make slings, and there's lots of good options out there. This is just what I'm more experienced with, or I have more experience with. I like the modularity of it, because you can actually buy like the different attachment systems separately if you want to, change out how your sling is set up. Like, I like that it is quick adjust, which lots of slings are also quick adjust. Sling is something you do not want to cheap out on, because you want to see what sling feels best to you, which feels easier to adjust, which feels easier to attach. You want the best possible sling for you. Alright, so I've been dreading getting to this part, because if any of you notice what optic this is, I am probably getting flamed for it. Your eyes do not deceive you. This is a SIG Romeo 5, but before you grab the pitchforks, let me explain. This is not like a mainstay optic. This is not on here because I intend for this to be my SHTF Apocalypse All Hell Breaks Loose optic. This is a placeholder. What I'm really waiting for is the Aimpoint Duty RDS. I actually bought this Scalarworks mount with the Aimpoint in mind. So until the Aimpoint is in my possession, the SIG is basically keeping the seat warm for the Aimpoint. I will say the Romeo 5, it's a good budget option. Like if you're looking for your first optic, this was my first true optic on my AR years ago, back when you could buy these for like $90. It's good to start, especially when you're getting familiar with the whole concept of red dots, but over time you're going to want to upgrade to something that can be that's tougher, that's sturdier, it's more rigid, like any of the Aimpoints, like Aimpoint Pro or their T2s, micro T2s. Talking a little bit about the Scalarworks mount, I got the lower third co-witness mount. I know that the 193 mount is all the rage right now with anyone with a YouTube channel, and it certainly has its benefits. I just went with the lower third because it is very sufficient for me. I can still get a good sight picture with it. I don't feel like I have to bury my cheek into the stock to get a sight picture. And when I do need to use my rear sights or my iron sights, I could still get a sight picture through the glass while having an unobstructed view of the dot when I'm using the dot. And also I appreciate the ease of attaching and detaching should I just need to get rid of the whole optic as a whole and just have a unobstructed sight or unobstructed view of my iron sights. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Magpul M-Bus because it's an M-Bus. Most people have an M-Bus on their ARs, or if they don't, have had M-Bus at one point. It works, it gets the job done, and I can just get it out of the way. Charging handle is a Radian Raptor. Again, there's really not a lot I can say that hasn't been said already. It is an excellent charging handle. I appreciate the extended handles on it for that extra real estate when I need to quickly rack. It is an excellent charging handle, very much worth the money. Highly recommend. So that pretty much covers the upper receiver. I'm gonna now talk about the lower receiver. Oh, actually, before I do, PSA nickel boron bolt carrier group. I got this like pre-pandemic for like $80, 85 bucks. I think they're like $120, $130 now. but I would say they're still worth it. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a palmetto state lower receiver. Internals, standard stuff, except for the fire control group, but I'm going to get into that in a bit. Pistol grip is a Magpul mission adaptable, which, I don't remember if there's anything in here. Haha. I completely forgot this was here. This would have helped me on my last range trip. Now I know. For now, but I'm probably gonna forget. So trigger is actually a CMC drop-in trigger. It is 2.5 pounds, which you're probably thinking, wow, that is ridiculously light, and it is. This is actually a competition trigger. It's made with competition in mind. I do not recommend this for self-defense, because with it being 2.5 pounds, it is insanely light. In a high stakes fight or flight scenario where you need to identify targets, this is definitely not a trigger you want in an AR, because the margin of error is significantly higher with this. Now, I have it on my AR because I put it on here because I want to be able to get as much rounds downrange in as quick of a succession as I am physically able to. And with the trigger, I feel like that helps me accomplish that. As long as you're not keeping your booger hook on the trigger when you're not supposed to, as long as you're aware of what's beyond your target, being aware of your target, being aware of your surroundings, you can definitely make it work, but it's not something that's going to click to you like right away. If you do go this route for a battle rifle setup, please be sure you're putting in all the training that's necessary, which is, there's never an end point. You're always going to want to train. Be sure you're putting in the training necessary that you can appropriately and adequately use this in a defense scenario where you're not going to be ADing, where you're not going to be misidentifying targets, and just overall being able to have control. Next up, I have a bad lever on here. And you may have seen the bad lever as the video is going on. I know bad levers don't have a good rap right now, and it's very deservedly so. You know, there's been reports of people having accidental discharges with it because, you know, the close proximity of the bad lever and the trigger, you know, people bumped their triggers because of their bad levers. This goes back to what I said before. Training matters. I am confident to run the bad lever because I have put in the training and still put in the training to where I can minimize incidents to zero. Well, I shouldn't even say minimize because I've never had an incident yet. I have never once had an accidental discharge because of my bad lever. If I ever do AD because of my bad lever, I'll remove it. Because I'm not going to talk all that talk just to do that and then act like nothing happened. I like to think I'm a man of integrity. So if I ever do AD, you will know, and this will be gone. But until then, this stays. No, let me talk about safety real quick. Not a lot to the safety, just your regular, you know, safety. Non-ambi, I can still do manipulations just fine without the need for an ambi, which is why I've never thought about moving to an ambi, because I've gotten so acclimated to just the regular safety. When it comes to the buffer assembly, there's really not a whole lot going on here of note. It's just a regular buffer tube, regular spring, and regular buffer. There's either an H2 or an H3 buffer that's in here. I don't remember off the top of my head, but everything else is standard in the buffer assembly. Stock is a BCM gunfighter. I really like this stock. I like that it's not easy to change the stock position, so you can't your stock doesn't just collapse when you don't want it to. It's very rigid, does not move at all, very little wobble, and something that you should highly consider when you're looking at a buttstock. how many options does that stock give you for attaching a sling? So I have a QD on here right now, but underneath it there is a slit to run a traditional sling on here. Slings that offer a variety of mounting solutions for sling, those are going to be good stocks. You want to have that freedom because, let's face it, us AR guys, we never stay with a setup for a long period of time. We're always changing stuff out, improving, upgrading, heck, even sometimes changing just for the sake of changing. So it's good to have that freedom to have lots of different ways you can mount a sling. But beyond that, that is pretty much my AR. Like I was saying before, how I set up my AR, as you saw, is how I set it up for me. It may or may not work for you, but, you know, I hope, if anything, that you took a lot from this video. Maybe learned something new about some parts, or maybe I gave you something to think about. Give us a subscribe. If you have any questions or just want to give a comment just for the sake of giving a comment, by all means, please drop a comment down below. We're always looking, and more than likely, you'll get a response from us. We like to entertain, but we also like to educate. This has been Peter with Primary Defensive Solutions. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.